Jojo Rabbit, directed by Taika Waititi, who has previously done Boy, Hunt for the Wilder People, What We Do in the Shadows, and Thor Ragnarok. And the cast includes himself, Roman Griffin Davis, Thomasin McKenzie, Scarlett Johansson, Sam Rockwell, Stephen Merchant, and Rebel Wilson. It's a satirical picture, very much in line with the type of humor Taika is known for, centering around Jojo, a 10-year-old boy who lives in a small German town during World War II and is an avid member of the Hitlerjugend. And you can see that he's very far along in terms of indoctrination, because at the point we meet him, he's very excited about being Hitler's soldier. So much so that his imaginary friend is actually Hitler himself, played by Taika Waititi, by the way, a Maori Jew. As he himself has stated on the reason why he chose to play the role, what better fuck you to the guy. After Jojo is injured on a weekend camp, he gets to stay at home for a period away from school and finds out that his mum, Scarlett Johansson, has actually been hiding a Jewish girl named Elsa in between the walls of the house. His initial reaction is, of course, terror and shock, and he intends to give her up to the authorities, but ends up not doing that for fear of his own life and his mum's. And so the two begin developing a secret, growing relationship. Now, I want to start with this relationship because it's probably what surprised me the most about the film. Knowing the premise, I expected the growing friendship to be portrayed rather stereotypically and by the book, and it isn't so, due to Elsa's snarkiness and penchant for sarcasm and Jojo's ridiculous prejudice. This central relationship actually feels very fresh the way it's approached. Fresh and natural. It really feels like you're not watching a movie script being acted out, but two real people interacting with one another in an organic way. It works really well, and that's the key to the movie's success, I think, because the entire thing hinges on this central relationship. Secondly, what may surprise some people but didn't surprise me as much knowing Taika is how funny the film is. For most of the runtime, it's pretty much a straight dark comedy, with gags just coming and coming and coming. We laugh mainly at the absurdities of Nazism and xenophobia, of the stupidities of propaganda and prejudice, but we also laugh at other things. A couple of the jokes stem from random trivia around Hitler. There's a joke about cloning, there's a joke about Jesse Owens, and we also laugh at the absurd characters and their interactions. A lot of the people in the film, especially background characters, are silly to the point of being caricatures. But again, it's never too much. It doesn't overstep that boundary. Especially as you can see, pretty much everybody have an absolute blast just being in the film. That's also kind of a Taika signature. His sets are famously always very relaxed and chill, and everyone who's gone on record about working with him had only praise. And thanks to that, we end up with a set of fantastic, charismatic performances. Both leads are great. Scarlett Johansson is delightful as the mom, got an Oscar nomination for it. Stephen Merchant and Rebel Wilson are genuinely funny. My personal favorite was Sam Rockwell, who plays Captain K, a disillusioned soldier relegated to training Hitlerjugend, who initially seems to be this mix of insanity and not giving a shit. But as time goes on, we learn that there's a softer side to him as well. And I think Rockwell excels at these types of roles, and I was delighted to watch him in Jojo Rabbit. The film also looks very refreshing for what is essentially a war movie, and that has to do with the sets and the costumes. There's a lot of vibrant color in there, a lot of life, something we don't typically expect and see in such movies. Filmmakers, I think, tend to go for dreary grays mostly in these war period pieces. And I've read that Taika specifically chose to do that after doing research and finding out that life in small town Germany was often just like that, despite the war raging on throughout Europe. There was color and life and dance. I also want to say that this is a really mature and intelligent picture in terms of pure filmmaking. What I mean is that a lot of the things that appear or are said or done in the film, especially early on, have a payoff later. There's a multitude of those things that at first seem almost throwaway or simple world building, and then in the last part, a lot of them come back. And there are several moments when you go, "Oh wow, so this is what was previously set up." Moments where you don't necessarily need words to spell things out for you, because the image itself is already established and familiar enough, and you instantly know what the movie is trying to say to you through this image. I won't go into any specific spoilers, but if you've seen the film, you'll know what I'm talking about probably. In any case, this particular thing to me is a sign of extremely competent filmmaking, of the director knowing what he wants to say and doing so in an efficient and crucially elegant way. And for the final point, I want to go back to the humor a little bit. I remember that while watching it, and even right after walking out, I hadn't yet come to terms with my emotional response, I guess, because there are several moments in the film which are real emotional rockets and would normally easily reduce me to tears. But in Jojo, I was laughing so much that when one of those moments would come, and they typically do rather unexpectedly, I was almost unprepared for the sudden shift. Like, the remains of my smile would still be frozen on my face, didn't escape in time to make room for tears. And if I just went and recapped the story of the film without mentioning the gags or the tone of it, just, list the events, you would probably go and say that this is a depressing war movie. But Taika made it into a constant circus almost, and that is unusual. And now that I've processed it all, I will say this: I appreciate what he's done, because I think it was done very deliberately and very boldly. I know Taika's previous films, and so I know he has this knack for taking somber moments and scenes and even entire stories and finding genuine humor in them. He's often forcing the audience to laugh through something they would normally cry for. Sometimes it's been criticized, the ending of Thor Ragnarok comes to mind, but for the most part it has worked, and it's given him a pretty unique voice in filmmaking. And I think taking that voice and using it to tell a sad, emotionally charged story that deals with childhood indoctrination, challenging your own identity, loss, war, famine, is a bold and difficult move, but it worked. Through most of the film, the audience is almost tricked into forgetting that the things they see unfolding should be sad and depressing, and have fun instead. And it's done in such a way that I don't think it's in any way disrespectful to anyone or anything, except maybe Hitler, but yeah, fuck that guy. It makes me happy that a film like this exists, because when you take all of the stuff that I just said and boil it down to its core, you end up with one simple conclusion: that Jojo Rabbit celebrates humanity even at its lowest and its darkest point. And I would be prepared to love it just for that alone, but as it happens, it is also a terrific film on every other front. Go see it.